matters that did not come up in the time of the Prophet and the companions, and now we have to answer them. Imam Ahmad was extremely skeptical about this, and he found it blameworthy. So again, now that, all right, we got issues that never came up in the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him. We have to write them down. We got to answer them. And this is what he's going to bring up, masail of fatwa in fiqh and kalam in aqida. So Imam Ahmad, and he says, طائفة يسيرة, and a small group said no to all of this. وكذا اشتد إنكار أحمد للذي بعده. ومما حدث أيضا تدوين القول في أصول الديانات. Matters related to aqida. That what are the necessary beliefs that a Muslim must have? What would put a person out of Islam altogether if he rejected it? What would put him outside of Ahl Sunnah if he rejected it? What would simply make him wrong if he rejected it? And what is not necessary to believe at all? It's like a belief that you may have and may not have. So even in matters of aqida, not all errors are the same. And this is a big issue when you look at online. People may misunderstand certain things. Errors in aqida are not all the same. Some errors in aqida will put you outside of Islam. That's that which is explicit and widespread. Mutawatir, al-riwaya, qat'i al-dalala. And there are errors that would not put you out of Islam, but would put you outside of Ahl Sunnah. And examples of those are that which is qat'i al-dalala, however, not mutawatir al-riwaya. It's not widespread. You need to have some kind of study to know this. But once you do know it, it's not up for discussion. Qat'i al-dalala means something not up for discussion. It only has one meaning. Then there are matters that are dhanni al-dalala. Its meaning may have possible meanings, and then you interpreted it outside that meaning, and it's not mutawatir. So as a result of that, if you go against it, you'd just be wrong. But it doesn't remove you from Ahl Sunnah, and definitely doesn't remove you from Islam. What does it mean to be removed from Ahl Sunnah? It means you're an innovator. You're a heretic. Your good deeds don't count. You're a Muslim. We treat you like a Muslim, but your good deeds are not counting until you fix your belief. These are the sects of Islam. And then there are a hadith that are maybe, it could be weak. Could be a weak hadith, but it pertains to matters of belief. It's not obligatory to believe in it at all. You may believe in it, you may not believe in it. There's a gradation in error. Not all errors are the same. And that's the big, it's so simplistic and simple to say, all right, if it's in the Quran, let's believe it. If it's not, it's not. Yeah, that's simplistic. But in the Quran itself has matters that are dhanni al-dalala. Of course, qat'i, thubut. We know it's a verse of Quran, but what it means can mean different things. Not everything of the Quran has only one possible meaning. Let's continue. And وَكَلَامُهُمْ, and their speech in the blameworthiness of theological disputation is well known, he says. كَلَامُهُمْ فِي ذَمِّ أَهْلِ الْكَلَامِ مَشْهُورٌ. Abu Hanifa and Malik and Shafi'i, and Ahmad ibn Hanbal, they all attacked the initial dialectical theologians. Why is that? Because the initial people who wanted to respond to these new questions that came up were the Mu'tazila. So what they were blaming was the departure of the Mu'tazila from Islamic teachings that are in the Quran and in the Hadith. The concept of answering back to atheists, answering back to philosophers, answering back to innovators is not what they disagreed upon. They didn't differ upon that. Okay. He says here, وَسَبَبُهُ, all right, the origin, the sabab, is that they spoke about matters that the Prophet, peace be upon him, didn't speak about, and the companions didn't speak about. And Malik said, in their time, in the time of the Prophet and the Sahaba, there were no innovations at all. Hence, there was no precedent of how to go about to do this. Malik himself says, in the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, there was no innovation. The time of this Abu Bakr and Umar, there was no innovation. So now when Muslims now have heretics and they need to respond, and they are responding, the first generation to do this, the first group to do this, the Mu'tazila, they went astray in doing so. How did they go astray? He says here, Mazaju, they mixed, they confused and mixed matters of religion with the philosophy of the Greeks. And who is this? The Mu'tazila. And they mixed the Greek thought with their thought, and then they made what the philosophers said to be an asl, what the assumptions of the philosophers. the assumptions of the philosophers to be an asl. If a hadith or a verse contradicted that, they went with the philosophers and they pushed away the verse and the hadith. And they held to much high esteem the Greek logicians and the Greek philosophers. And they said, this is the origin of all knowledge. And whoever doesn't know this stuff is an ami and an ignoramus. So that is why in the time of the four imams, dialectical theology, ilm al-kalam, was an innovation because of their methodology and their results. Not because of the concept that we need to answer atheists and we need to answer heretics. That's not the issue. All right, so let's continue here. وإن لم يكن له منه بد فليكتفي منه بقدر الحاجة ويجعل الأول المقصود بالأصالة والله الموفق. So he says here, when it is a dire need and a necessity to answer people, then suffice yourself with the texts. In other words, you cannot contradict our texts of Quran and Hadith when answering these people and establishing the principles of how to answer them. And that's what the theologians eventually did.